Thank you for joining me today with the Earth Body video series. I'm here with the beautiful Liana Naima. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm so excited to have you. Today, we're really just talking about healing methods that Liana uses, the importance of working with our body, with sound, with chanting. I know for me, what healing really should involve is feeling safe, feeling grounded, and being able to express ourselves. And I know that you work with sort of those three pillars as well. So maybe we can start off if you want to talk about those things such as breath work, chanting, singing, and why you like to use those things, why they're important to you, and maybe how they help.
Okay, beautiful. Awesome. So my name is Liana, as you all know, and I'm a Reiki practitioner, and I utilize breath work and voice alchemy in my practice to silence the mind and induce a transcendent state. And besides Reiki, I really use breath work because with the breath, we're able to connect to life force energy in a completely different way. We're able to regulate our body. We're able to really calm our mind and be really present with the breath. Using the breath alone will induce an altered state of consciousness. So breath work was really something that came to me very naturally as a tool. And it's something that we're always doing, just like having sacred pauses throughout the day and using the breath to shift our current state. If we want to go into feeling higher or lower, you can literally just use the breath that way. So that's why I use it. There's really different types of breathwork patterns that you can go into, but the type that I typically use is like a different version of like holotropic breathwork. Pranayama is a yogic breathwork patterns that people use. So it really just depends on the purpose and what you want to get out of the experience with connecting with the breath. And sound. So breathwork and sound have been used since the beginning of time. I mean, just quite frankly. And using these practices really allow us to turn inward. And sound especially is really great for opening different states of awareness. Any form of sound is vibrational energy. And I've experienced the healing of singing, using Sanskrit mantras, seed mantras for working with the chakra centers, thinking of Lam, Yam, Ram. So, and also drumming, I've experienced. I have like a huge buffalo drum behind me that I use in my practice, and Tibetan singing bowls and a didgeridoo are different ways of sound I've experienced as healing tools. Anytime you listen to music, if you're just truly listening to a sound, it shifts what you're going through, like physically, emotionally, spiritually, and it really aligns you in a different way energetically. And yeah, I just feel like sound is such a powerful multidimensional tool for tapping into transcendence as well as the breath. So.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, I feel like so much, at least on my journey, has been learning and thinking about things and, getting aware, but bringing it back to these really grounding techniques can be so important to integrate. And so I love that you sort of serve as someone to help utilize those tools, because I do think for people that don't know about them as well, there can be some confusion about what kind of sound to use or what kind of chants, what kind of breath work. It can be a little tricky to just get into if you don't know about it. So I love that you are here to sort of help facilitate that. And so I love that. And I'm wondering also, what are some of the ways that you like to feel safe in your body besides these things, or other ways that you sort of get in alignment? If you have any favorite tools that you either recommend to people or things that you use yourself, like it could be self-care tools and things like that.
So the biggest way that I practice self-care is through solitude and silence. I'm really able to hear and to see and to sense with all of my senses, like in silence and in darkness. So I feel like, you know, forced solitude is how I self-cleanse and how I allow myself to feel really safe and secure in my body. Besides connecting with like breath and sound, I really feel like you know, turning away from all the distractions allows you to tap into the magnitude of who you are, in and out of this reality. So silence is really big for me, solitude, as well as like prayer. It's not prayer how you typically imagine it. I don't typically pray to God. I call on like my spirit guides, I call on my guardian angels, and just feeling like that energetic presence of these entities around me allows me to feel a lot more secure and safe in my body. I really like connecting with the space of the sternum. So even just like rubbing the sternum, which is considered the seat of the soul, and also like the high heart. So connecting with this part of my body, even like through light tapping.
Oh,
Really,
cool.
yeah. So tapping exercises are really great. You can tap like meridian points on your body. And that really helps you with just feeling, you know, safe in your body, especially. So the sternum is really big for me. I sing from this space in my body. And I allow like the sounds of my heart and throat to come into alignment when I'm sort of channeling songs. So
Cool.
really being in this part helps me feel secure in my body. There's so many different ways. Another thing that I do is I always have like a few crystals, like really, like this is like a selenite wand.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's like my dagger. So this is like my selenite dagger. And like, I always like to have like a big piece of it around me. If I'm feeling sort of all over the place, selenite is a great balancing stone. It also helps you connect with like guardian angels, getting clear messages. And it is, you know, in my opinion, one of the most powerful stones for balancing all your energy centers. So I like to just hold it to ground me if I'm ever feeling all over the place in my body, and to just shift the energy. Yeah, there's so many different methods. I'm like,
You don't have to go into all of them, but if you know
yeah.
one more that you can think of, but if not, yeah. And I,
And
I one thing that I love about some of the things you've mentioned already is that it can sometimes get tiring to feel like we constantly have to like mother ourselves or take care of ourselves. So I feel like a lot of the things you mentioned doesn't require too much, you know, thinking effort to take care of ourselves. We can sort of lean in on these supports and sort of also just have that faith, like with prayer too, you know, we're looking to like outside of ourselves to source, or looking to the earth and nature and crystals. Like I just want to emphasize that point that you don't, it can feel maybe overwhelming sometimes to feel like we constantly have to, you know, be a mother to ourselves or to nurture ourselves. So these tools, you know, we really can lean on them and get support from them. And even when you said silence, it's like then we don't have to do anything, we can just sit in silence and feel, you know, the support that way. So I just want to bring that up, and I love that. I want to shift maybe back to the singing and chanting, because one of the things that I mentioned at first with expression, and I know that that can be such an important thing, especially for women, but really for anyone, to, you know, strengthen that tool of expressing ourselves, because there can be so many ways that we are taught not to. And I think that that's a way that people can really come into their power. And, you know, not that you always have to express yourself, but when you need to or when you want to, you know, really being able. So I would love to, I like to think that you helping guiding women using their voice will really help that and encourage that. I don't know if you want to speak on that.
no, definitely. In my private practice, I've attracted a lot of women who have been silenced, who feel like they cannot express like their emotions fully. A lot of them have been like bottling up rage in their body, and they feel this tension that's kind of like unspoken of. I had a client once, this is like one of my most memorable sessions. She said it felt like there were 1,000 ancestors behind her screaming all the time. So I just think like visually, just like that feeling of like the weight of the world on your shoulders and needing to release it in some way. Um, Using sound, even intuitively, can really connect to sort of like the primal self-healing abilities of your body and of your voice. Not even using chanting, and really just tapping into that space. It really helps to sort of have, in my opinion, like maybe background music to guide you into the experience, and then just opening yourself up for letting any expression that needs to arise. And that can be screaming, that can be crying, that can be laughter. It's very fun to tap into how these different sort of the emotional wave can really heal you, as long as you're able to go to it, release the tension, and then come back down.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, in my work, it's really about feeling every emotion fully, and sometimes that's not pretty. Like sometimes it is really, a lot of things we're afraid to confront, but really using the voice to feel all those emotions and then coming back down to your center. Emotions are really like a pendulum, like going back and forth, and it's so much power when you're able to go there and to come back like
Yeah.
just as rapidly. So I think I think I tweeted once that I like love being able to cry and laugh in the same minute. So I feel like, it sounds a bit like crazy, but I feel like that is true power of your emotional state, is
Yeah.
being able to go to the highs and the lows, and then to come back into your center.
Yeah, and just releasing whatever needs to be released, whether, yeah, it's both and in the same minute, like if that's what needs to come out, like absolutely, yeah.
Exactly. And as I mentioned before, with connecting to the sternum, another technique you can do is like with your dominant hand and with your head tilted to the ceiling, just really gently like beating the area around your chest to like loosen up that energy, and to just allow any organic sounds to come out.
Mm.
And also, this is also like a form of like light tapping, is really like loosening up energy in your body to flow. So,
Cool. Thanks for
yeah.
sharing that. Yeah, I feel like all these techniques, like these simple things that you don't need any fancy tool, like that's what's so great about these things. It's, we really want to tell everyone about them and anyone can use them, and just to really, seems like you're talking a lot about, yeah, releasing a lot of that stagnant energy that maybe was blocked in. And I know for me with sound, I used to feel like embarrassed to like make sounds in front of other people like that, and like singing and chanting. So it's great to sort of maybe like release that shame around being loud and doing what you need to do.
Yeah, I remember, this is just like a funny memory. I remember I was like a senior in college, and my thesis was due, and I was like a couple weeks behind on writing. And I remember going to like this huge hill on my campus with one of my friends, and we were just screaming and screaming because we were holding so much tension in our bodies. And of course, we didn't have any money to like go, maybe get like a deep tissue massage, but we could scream. And the voice, the breath, the voice and the breath, when I talk about it, it's like interchangeable for the healing benefits of it. um, and really just allowing yourself to tap into that space of moving the energy yourself.
Yeah, yeah, I feel like just remembering that can be so important, because I know for myself, I'm thinking back on the week and I'm like, did I even do anything to like release my energy? I do so much like writing or reading, but really just moving, however that looks for, what you need individually. But yeah,
Yeah.
I guess now, is there anything I want to talk about your book club and books, but is there anything else that you want to say first about breath work or sound before I mean, I guess it's tied in, but if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, these are some of the oldest tools in the world. Like, I can't say that enough. And this stuff of like connecting with spirit and connecting with this energy is really just a practice of remembrance. In no way is this new. It's just shifting your understanding of it. So I think really allowing yourself to tap into the self-healing abilities of breath work, of singing, of even dancing. I wanted to share with you today, like my first Kundalini awakening experience.
Yeah, I'd love to
'Cause
hear.
yeah, because I feel like it really captures like everything we're talking about. So, you know, when you think of Kundalini energy, it's the same as prana, as ki, as life force, ashe, chi. It's the same thing. So this Kundalini energy at the base of my spine, I was in this, you know, this meditative group space waiting for the practitioner to come, and I was listening to this song by Fela Kuti, and I started like dancing in the hallways. I was dancing and dancing and dancing and dancing. And I was just like really connecting with the drum beat and really connecting with sort of like this primal flow and not caring if anybody was watching me dance. And then it felt like my head was on fire. Like I felt such a flow of like chakra energy like through my spine that I was like, whoa. So I just wanted to share that experience because that was me using dance. That was me using sound. I wasn't doing, you know, really any thinking involved. I was just like moving the body, shifting the body, and then boom, it's like the energy flow really unlocked itself.
Yeah,
So
wow. I feel
yeah,
like intuitively feeling into like the movements that you were like feeling and feeling called to do. I feel like, you know, really honoring that intuitive like guidance you had to do that. And it's funny you mentioned Kundalini because I just started taking Kundalini yoga.
oh, awesome.
Yeah, it's really great. I went I did it twice, and unfortunately I was going back to school, so I wasn't at the where it was anymore, but it was so great, and it really, I feel, unlocked a lot of wisdom in my body. And yeah, it's so important, and the breath of fire is so cool. And it really, there's so many, yeah, the breath work, like so many different ways that it can help serve us and cleanse us or ground us. And so I love that there are so many options. And I wish there were more books on breath work, because I feel like, you know, for not everyone that can maybe have access to like a breathwork session, still learning more about it. And but it's so cool that it's so ancient, and I wonder if there are like ancient texts about it, you know. I'm
Yeah,
sure there are, but
yeah, there definitely are. There's, you know, even when I first started getting in this work, I remember going to the Brooklyn Museum and I was staring at these Egyptian hieroglyphs. And in the Egyptian hieroglyphs, I was seeing, I think it was Queen Nefertiti or Akhenaten, but basically they were passing the Ankh through the breath. They're passing knowledge of life through the breath.
wow.
And that was all I needed to
Yeah.
know. Like literally just seeing that image of how they were breathing life. So I was like, of course, through the breath, I connect with everything. I connect with self-healing. I connect with moving life force energy. I connect with ancient wisdom. And that is also like connected to the body. I love this vessel, this body so much because there's so much information within it. Even doing yoga, like with like really slowly breathing in really deeply, you're able to really connect into different states of awareness.
Yeah,
So.
so cool. Was there actually a moment when you decided, I know that you went to school for education, right? And I'm wondering if there was a moment that you sort of had a shift where you decided to start your private practice, or if it was sort of these slow, like moments like you going to the Brooklyn Museum, like things that sort of pieced it together to make that shift, or if there was one day you woke up and you're like, no, I need to be doing this now.
So I studied in undergrad, I studied philosophy. I then immediately went into education after undergrad. So this was like 3 years into my teaching career, 2.5, 3 years. Um, and I had this like really intense back injury, which I feel like a lot of people have heard about already. And the back injury was one of the catalysts that just told me like I wasn't living my life correctly. But besides that, I always had a really untraditional upbringing. Like my father is an artist in New Orleans, and he grew up practicing multiple religions, quote unquote. He would practice Ramadan, and he would talk about Jesus the next day. So he really was a really like unconventional person, and just seeing him and how he navigated religion let me know that I could, be open to any experiences of information, of like sacred knowledge. Um, so yeah, I feel like between my upbringing and really just knowing that there was something missing, like my entire life, I always felt like there was something that I didn't know. Like this like sense of urgency, like I don't know something, like something's not right. This is just like a scam. I would like look at life and I would be like, this is a scam. Like something is going on. Like, why are they telling us, to be afraid of the dark? Like that's something I'm really fascinated by lately. Or why are children believing that? Or, why are we not respecting childhood as much as we should be? I'm trying to think of other examples. But just even like our medical field, like teaching us to really suppress our pain with pills. So I always viewed like society as like, this is not real. So I kind of like came to spirituality with like wanting to know like what is real for me. And yeah, I'm not sure if that makes sense. It was
No,
kind of
yeah, all of those make sense. I feel like in a way, if we're really supposed to be doing something else, like we will get pushed there, whether we, go on our own or something happens that really like pushes us there. So I feel like it's sort of like having that faith that we will be guided where we need to go, or that things happen for a reason, is like nice to remember when something comes up that we might not know why it's happening, or it might be difficult. Just like really leaning in and taking that and saying like, what is this trying to show me? Or like, why did this happen? Like for what reason? And so it seems like,
yeah.
you had some of those questions, or you let yourself explore like where you started to be guided.
Yeah, I was always really big on questioning, and I was always really big on listening to my intuition, like my entire life. And a quick example of that was like after Hurricane Katrina, I had the option of staying in the South and staying with my father, and he was raising me at the time. So I was like, oh, I should stay with my dad. Or I had the option of going to Boston to finish high school with my mom. So I had this like huge life decision I had to make when I was 16. And intuitively, I was like, something is telling me I have to go to Boston. I don't really want to go to Boston. Why would I want to go to Boston? But something is telling me that I'm supposed to finish high school there. And then the chain of events that happened after, I had like a huge scholarship to college. I had these wonderful opportunities when I made the move. But there was just like so many series of events that I was able to see how listening to my intuition led to boom, 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 boom outcome.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes like when we get an intuitive like push to something, we might not be able to see in the moment why we should be doing that, or what it'll lead to, or it might not even make like linear sense. But then when you follow it, it totally unravels like a whole path that feels so right, or it leads to something that you knew you were meant to find. And yeah, I
Yeah.
always really encourage people to listen to their intuition, because external like sources or external like guidance can be so loud sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Parents, family, partners, like society, it can be so easy to listen to that instead of like going inward. I don't know if you have any other advice about, how to tell like when you made that choice, like it can be impossible to describe, but maybe like what told you to go to Boston, or how did did you just like pay extra attention to what was going on inside?
Intuition is like rapid. So I knew immediately after like these chain of events that were happening that I was supposed to go there. It was kind of like my mind that was like fogging up the decision. So it's always been like that clear, heartfelt knowing of what to do. And people get intuitive knowledge in different ways. It comes through in different senses. For some people, it's a feeling. For some people, it's a vision in their third eye. So it really just depends on like how that information comes to you. But for me, it's always been crystal clear, separate from my ego, my identity. It's like, this is the decision. This is
Right.
crystal clear. This is what I know. So I knew for sure that my life was leading me to that moment, to that, trajectory of events. So yeah, I think for everyone, their intuition shows up in different ways, but it's beyond the fog. That's the best way to describe it. It's like it's seeing past the distractions of thoughts, or past the distractions of like what you should be or could be doing. It's that inner knowing. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And I feel like also sometimes smaller examples can help. Like if we want to just go about our daily lives and then see like, should I go to the grocery store? Should I go here? And like seeing how you like what comes up in your mind, like maybe that's also a cool way we can like strengthen our intuition, just using it, maybe not
Yeah.
like first starting out with smaller choices and then letting it guide us to like the bigger choices. But as you said, sometimes it's just like you just know, like for something huge, like there's no way around it. So
Yeah. And I mean, intuitive knowledge, I mean, it's so, so powerful. Like I'm thinking of like when I'm working with a client, or if I have someone who's like an intuitive body worker, they'll be able to sense exactly where to go on my body. They'll be able to see, into that realm of like, oh, energy is not flowing here, and there's no talking involved, but they're just able to read your system in a different way. So I truly feel like intuitive knowledge is infinite. And for me, especially, it's connected to a lot of past lifetime wisdom. Working with sound was something that just came to me when I got this like massive drum. I was just like, intuitively I started singing with, and I was like, whoa, like I'm going somewhere. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm singing and it's taking me there, like to that place of transcendence to heal.
I feel like that's so cool. I thought about how some of our intuition can come from past life wisdom. That's so true because
Yeah.
like, yeah, how did I know that? Or how did I know to do that? And also just maybe a connection to source and things like that. But it's so cool to think about it being connected to past lives. And then it makes you want to do like past life regressions and things like that to find
Hmm.
I personally haven't done that yet, but I get glimpses of like ideas that I have about past lives, but it'd be cool to explore and then see, maybe it'll make sense why your in like your intuition is the way it is now based off of like things that happened in the past. So
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, I mean, one of my, I had an experience recently with another person that I was working with, and she was saying that she kept on having this urge to do healing baths, like using like, Himalayan sea salt, essential oils. So it was really coming to her to want to create this like bath ritual for herself. So I was like, well, just go to a store and see what you're picking up intuitively. Like, don't think about it too much, and just, really see like what oils are coming to you, like what crystals are coming to you. Even when you go to a crystal shop, they tell you not to go in thinking you need to get one thing. It's really being in front of them and you're like intuitively saying like, oh, this is what I need right now. So it helps you connect on like a vibrational level with information that is so much wiser than our brains, or than our like than our like taught information.
It can be so hard to really like trust into that because especially with intuition there's no way to like we don't have to prove it to anyone, but there also isn't really a way to like show others our intuition just because it's so personal. It's so, based off of our personal alignment, our personal vibration, what's right for us. So, I know that there are some people that might like be doubters or might, but we don't even have to like worry about that because it is so powerful, but it
Yeah.
can be, I know, maybe hard to trust into at first, but
Yeah.
fun things like you were saying, going to the store, like things like that, it can be fun to use our intuition in those ways, but really just emphasizing that it's okay to trust our intuition and we don't need external validation for everything, and we can just use our inner guidance.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it also helps to give it credit. I'm thinking of like different moments where I've met someone and within like 2 minutes I'm like, oh, we're going to be friends for a long time. Like it's like you can meet someone and you can just like, you're reading their field intuitively, like not even having like any information on the person, not judging the person based on appearances. It's like your energy field is saying like, oh, this person is in alignment with you, so this person should stay around you. So, you know, when my parents met, that's like they're divorced now, but my dad always talks about like that exact moment, like, you know, the exact timing of things really helps you see intuition in a different way.
Yeah.
Like the fact that he left his house that night, the fact that my mom left her house that night, the
Yeah.
fact that they were in the same space, like, you know, what is that magnetic pull to certain people?
Yeah, that's so cool to think
Yeah.
about. You know, it's like we can all look back in our lives and the things that we happened to do at that time that led to like the perfect thing that we needed, or and now we're here now because of all of those things, and yeah, and our purpose. So it's so cool. Yeah, just giving respect to the intuition.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, another aspect of it is like soul contracts. But even if we're thinking of soul contracts, that is still intuition. That is still kind of like that force, you know, driving you to people and driving you to moments and driving you to lessons. So it's really, really rich. And, you know, I feel like all knowledge of the soul really comes, well, not all. I talk so definitively sometimes, but I feel like so much knowledge of the soul comes in through intuitive knowledge.
Yeah, wow. I would love to talk about your book club, or just, and even after that, if there are any other projects that you're working on or want to share about. I know I've joined your book club and it was amazing, and because there are so many incredible books out there, and sometimes there can be a ton that we haven't read yet or don't know about, or even if we love it, like talking with other people about it and building a community with it can be such a way to enhance like every aspect of, you know, reading these books, because there might be things that we didn't pick up on, or just hearing the way that the book helped other people can add all of those ways onto our own understanding of
Hmm.
the book. And um, I was wondering what made you decide to do that, and if it was just because you thought about like books that helped you, or um yeah.
I think me being a former teacher really like pushed me to do it. Like I love like classroom spaces. I love just the amount of like insights that can come when you're bringing different minds together, especially for my own growth. So, you know, in a lot of ways with this book club, I always tell people like I'm the facilitator, but everyone's a teacher.
Mm,
Because so many of us that are coming into this space with these interests know so much already. So I love creating spaces for people in which you're able to share their knowledge and to share, you know, a piece of themselves when they're ready. Yeah, and it just felt good. It felt right. It was an intuition thing. It was like I was like, I'm supposed to have a book club. Okay, this is what I need.
yeah.
So, and I just love consistency with community. That's another thing too.
Yeah, that's so true. I feel like, you know, there's a awesome spiritual community on Twitter, but you know, writing in 100 and whatever characters can only go so far, and it can be hard to, you know, build genuine connections on there. So I feel like having, whether it's in person or virtual, like a space with real talking people in the moment, being really
Yeah.
present, can be not only powerful but also just nice to have, and to, yeah,
Mhm.
grow together and learn together. And it's so true what you said. There's, you know, it can be nice when there's a teacher teaching, but it can also be so cool to have like a group of people having a discussion. And I feel like, you know, especially with spiritual stuff, it can be hard for people sometimes to find a community in where they live and, you know, close to them in real life. And you know, there's that whole like lone wolf thing. So I feel like
Mhm.
it's awesome that you did that, to like let people know like there are people here that want to talk with you about this stuff. There are people that understand what you're going through. So
Yeah.
it's
I think, yeah, no, I'm with you. I remember one of the book club meetings, there was someone from like North Carolina, there was someone from Texas, there was someone in Mexico. So I feel like just creating those spaces and allowing us to have that room to be free with each other, like judgment free, shame free, is really big. And I think I also was aware of like the privilege of living in New York. I was like, there's so many spiritual places in New York. There's so many people I can talk to about this work. So I was aware that it was like a privilege for me to be in this space. And like a lot of people who live in smaller towns, they don't have access to this as readily available. Like seeing other women who are grappling through these concepts, especially, you know, at the time that we're living in right now with like, you know,
Yeah, absolutely.
energy is so high.
And also having a book to center the discussion around or to add, like it really, yeah, helps. It's not like we're just coming in with no sort of base. It's like it's not awesome that the book sort of is the base that we
Mm-hmm.
use to like discuss the different aspects, and also just, yeah, to have that to work off of. And I love the books that um yeah, I'm wondering if there's any other projects that you are able to talk about at this time, or
Secrets are no fun unless you share them with everyone. So I like always say that when someone's like, "Tell me what's going on."
you don't have to share anything that you don't.
What am I up to?
Yeah, just what are you up to? That's
Yeah, what are you up to? So the book club is going well. I have my individual clients. This is the first space I'm announcing this on. I'm creating a platform with one of my closest friends in the city. We're creating a platform for people of color, men of color, women of color to kind of go into transcendent spaces. Yeah, so we're building this baby right now. We just got the name of it like last week. So we've been having like really deep like study sessions, like working on like the space we want to create. And we're going to be doing breath work, singing, chanting, community building activities. So I'm really excited about that. And yeah, besides that, I've been like, I have like a bit of publicity this week. So, you know, including this moment, I'm going to be on like a radio show
wow.
Tuesday night. And then I'm doing another interview for a platform that I don't think I can share yet about. So
That's so exciting. Yeah, all of
yeah.
those things. And it sounds wonderful, like that project that you just mentioned, because I feel like, yeah, I mean, I'll just say this, like, I know so many white people that are healers and like, like guides and all this stuff. So it's really like refreshing and so needed to have like diversity, to have spaces that, you know, are for people of color explicitly, and not just, you know, saying, oh, this space is open, but it's maybe like, you know, really in, you know, just can be a little like whatever. So it's really nice to just have that up front, like this is here, like this space is needed, because, you know, space alone can be like a privilege to have space. So creating space can be so important. And I'm sure obviously that's why you're doing that.
Definitely. Yeah, I feel like there's like so much I can talk about just with that alone, but you know, I feel like, you know, people of color, especially, there's like a lot of, I don't want to say stigma, but there's like a really, you know, there's layers to the relationship that they have with like spirituality and religion that have to be sorted through to really like unlocking, you know, comfort around this work. So that's something I've been working on a lot. I'm doing the Black Lives Matter Youth Conference next week.
Oh, wow.
I'm super excited about that. It's a teenage conference, a teenage, what am I saying teenage? It's a conference for teenagers in New York. And that's also like a space where we're going to be talking about like self-healing methods and also still doing social justice work. So this, yeah, this worked for me. What were you saying?
No, I was just gonna say, especially like being the age of a teenager, that's such an important age to like start these practices, or just to show people that these types of things are here to help, because that can be such, you know, an age. So
Yeah, I love working with teenagers because they're more receptive to this than I feel even adults are. They're like, of course this is real. Like, yes, of course, this makes sense. I understand everything now. So it's like, I feel like they're very open to going into this space and taking care of themselves. It's just so important right now with everything going on in like the social political climate that we're, not viewing self-care as like a luxury, but as something that is for survival.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And really taking care of our mental, physical, spiritual state always. So, yeah.
I'm so grateful that you're doing those things because I know it'll be so like helpful, and it's just so wonderful that you're here to serve and you're here to help like create these spaces. So I'm just so glad that you're doing that. So
Of course, it feels great. It's like such an honor. I definitely feel sometimes like the magnitude of it and like and like wanting to do it justice and do it right. So I'm just gonna do the best I can and enjoy it and have fun on the ride.
awesome. Well, is there anything else you want to say? Because I feel like, we're almost at time, but I want to open it up in case there's anything else that you want to share before we're
Hmm.
done.
Let me check my notes. Um, I think just, there's so much I've already mentioned kind of in passing, but you know, there's so much information already within you that no words will really do it justice. And really allowing yourself to exist outside of language, exist outside of your story, and to just be the awareness of consciousness, the awareness of what is coming up for you, is really powerful in and of itself. So, I just encourage people to think beyond their story, think beyond labels that are attached to identity, and to allow yourself to sink in to this ocean of healing energy around us.
Yeah.
So,
It's just like
yeah.
a great reminder that we can always come back to ourselves, or that it'll always be there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, coming back to your heart space, also coming back to your core. One of my mentors is a psychic, and she has me doing this technique where I'm putting all of my energy in my solar plexus anytime I feel overwhelmed. So that's a great thing you can focus on, and just really holding all your energy in your stomach to just stay grounded in this work, because we tend to want to go up to like higher dimensions and to like experience, transcendence and stuff, but really still being grounded is important.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today. I so appreciate it. I'm so grateful to have had you here and to hear all of the wisdom that you had to say. So thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you for having me. Yeah. All
Bye.
right. Bye, guys.